All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third The Leap workshop. This one is very special because we broke it down into 2 days. We wanted to make sure that it was easily digestible. I know before we were doing really long 1 day workshops and it was just a lot of information. So we broke it down into 2 days this time. So I'm really excited. Today, it is my pleasure to bring to you these two amazing entrepreneurs who have taken the leap. They have two very different, extremely interesting stories, and we'll get into that later. But first, we have the fabulous serial entrepreneur, speaker, and mentor, Berjheny Del Mar. She is the founder of many companies. We put links to her companies too, so make sure that you check out the reception room and then also the booth because we're offering some pretty cool stuff. We also have Lesley Toche, is French. He is the amazing people connector, a creative, an innovator. He is the founder and CEO of NextPlay, which is a premier career development platform. So, hello, everybody. Welcome. So this is called The Leap. We start each leap conversation with your leap moment. And this is that moment when you decided you're going to be an entrepreneur. You're going to transition your life and your focus into something different. So we will start with you, Berjheny. What was your leap moment?
So I think I had two leap moments. The first one was when I actually jumped all the way to be an entrepreneur. Sadly, that was the moment when I lost my parents and I had no choice but to just go and start like hustling, right? I had a brother. I felt like I needed to take care of him and I was going to college. I was taking care of him. So I needed to start a business or something on the side, like a side hustle in order to keep us going. And that was when I was 18. So my first business was a long time ago. I'm not going to say my age, but it was like around 20 years ago, 21. And so I would say that was the first time. And that became kind of like, I became a hustler, like I had a beauty salon, then I had a restaurant, then I had a hotel, it was just like all over the place. But then the second leap was again for something that happened in my life when I lost my brother. So I had to take a moment to stop everything and just think about my purpose. Think about, it's not about making money. It's not about hustling all the time. It's not about working 12, 14 hours a day. It has to be more than that. And so that was the moment that I needed to, like I took a year off just to try to find my purpose. What is that I'm supposed to be doing? What is that life is all about? And so by trying to find my purpose, I found these amazing like coaches and healers and, all these kind of people that I never even knew about. And mixing that, my love for this newfound group of humans that were supporting others, combined with my love for business design and branding, I created this last business, which is Creatige, which I think is truly my purpose because it's all about helping people like you guys that are getting out there, making things happen, supporting others. And my job is just to support entrepreneurs to create businesses, to create brands, to step into their power, to be able to get out there in the best possible way to help more people.
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow. What about you, Lesley? What was your
leap? So just to clarify, leap is a moment that I knew I was going to leave and pursue full-time entrepreneurship. Is that what you're looking for? Okay, so I should probably provide a bit more context. Okay, so I run NextPlay, and as you mentioned, as Aaron mentioned, is a career development platform for Black and Latinx professionals in the tech industry. And so I worked at LinkedIn at the time. I had worked there for 4 years. For 2 years, I was a recruiter. The last 2 years, I was a diversity program manager. And as a part of that job in my last 2 years, hosting networking events was a part of that job. And I wanted to innovate networking events. I wanted to host events at the intersection of networking, recruiting, but also incorporate culture, incorporate elements of the culture, so people can be authentic, people could feel that sense of belonging. You feel like you belong here, and just people could have more fun. And so started doing those events at LinkedIn. We called them open mic events. We would invite, Black and Latinx professionals we wanted to hire. They'd come into LinkedIn, and the events were, it was extremely engaging. It was a good time. Networking, we had talks, the usual stuff, but then we had, live dance performances. We had live paintings. Art was a part of the events. We had DJs. We dimmed the lights a little bit. The food was super authentic. I even had my family cook food for one of the events. So I'm from Cameroon. So there's a whole lot of culture, and people are getting hired, right? That's the outcome of these jobs. And it ended up being extremely powerful, right? We hired a lot. LinkedIn hired a lot of Black and brown people from those events. And it got really interesting. At the time, or before I started doing those events, I had no idea in the next year I'd be a full-time entrepreneur. I was just doing my job and just trying to do the best that I possibly can. But sometimes you just end up in entrepreneurship. That was my story anyways. So after hosting those events, people would approach me at the events and tell me, this is extremely powerful. I've been in the industry for 10, 15 years. This is the first time I've ever truly felt like I belong in this industry, this tech industry. And I started hearing stuff like that. The sentiments were inspiring, and my teammates started telling me that this work that you're doing is amazing. And yes, I work for this company, but this is bigger than just one company. The entire industry needs this. You should consider leaving and creating a bigger platform for all Black and Latinx professionals out there. People in the community who are attending these events kept making requests like, hey, can you host these events for other companies also? LinkedIn is great, but this is the only environment where I want to have these conversations with recruiters or just other people who look like me who can help get me in. At that point was when I started considering, really making that leap. And I asked my manager, would you pay for this? If I didn't work here and I approached LinkedIn, would you pay for this? She said, yes. I asked her how much. As soon as she told me, I knew I was out. And so that was basically my moment. I realized, one, I could make a much bigger impact doing this outside of this company. And two, I can make a lot more money. So for me, that was a moment I knew I was going to transition out and become a full-time entrepreneur.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from entrepreneurs, especially when they're in corporate America and they really have a purpose and a passion and are trying to live out that passion. And then they're doing their job, they're doing their, what they're hired to do. And then later they say that they feel like they could have made a bigger impact by becoming an entrepreneur. So a lot of times that's the reason why they transition to make a larger difference.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the first step? And either of you can jump in on this. What was first? So it was like, okay, you realize you can make a bigger impact. You realize that, and then also you can make more money. What do you do next?
So in my case, I feel that the first time it was just about money. Definitely, it was more about how can I use my time, the little time that I have, and create something where I can leverage my time. So my first business, like I say, it was a beauty salon. So I thought if I hire other people to do everything and I just need to be kind of give it a space, make it pretty, put people to work there, I just need to show up 2-3 hours a day, make money. You know what I mean? For me, just about trying to figure out how can I make money without me being there 8 hours, 9 hours a day, because I was going to college and taking care of my brother and doing all these things. So yes, that was a side hustle. That was something I was doing on the side with the least amount of time possible. Like I said, I can always compare those two for me, like what I'm doing now and what I was doing before. This one for me was about purpose. It was the opposite. It was following my passions without at the beginning understand how I'm going to make money out of this. So I wasn't very clear. I was just following what made me happy. And so one thing led to the other. I allow myself to be led somehow. and trying things that will make me happy little by little until I figure out, oh, I can make money with this and I love it. And, once I realized I could make money with this, I give it a shape. And then I had a strategy. Okay, so how much money? What is the pricing? How I'm going to be selling? What is the strategy? How's the funnel? How I'm going to get people into it? But I feel like if I need to advise somebody that is going to start right now, I truly believe after working with like probably 5 or 6 years with people that are starting businesses, you need to have that combination. You need to have that combination of passion and purpose and trying to make something bigger than you, because this is hard, man. Like, you work hard. And if you don't have a motivation that is bigger than money, like sometimes you're not going to wake up in the morning and be like, yes, I'm ready for 12 hours again. And it's Saturday and it's Sunday and it's 9 and I need to hustle and I need to go. Like, you need to have that inside you that will be like, I love what I'm doing. I'm passionate about it. So you need both. You need the passion and purpose, and then you need the strategy, because otherwise it's a hobby, right? Like, how can I monetize? How can I make money out of this? That's something that I got.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it is incredibly difficult and it's incredibly demanding, and passion is what keeps you going, right? That's the one thing that's gonna remain constant. There's gonna be ups and downs. It's gonna be a journey for sure, but the one thing that would not change is that passion and that drive that you have. So 100% agree with that. So for me, the next step, to answer your question, Aaron, the next step was to do things one step at a time. So I'll be honest, I didn't have this master plan. I didn't have a 1-year roadmap, 2-year roadmap, 3-year roadmap. I just asked myself a simple question. Can I host one event outside of this company? And can I get multiple companies to sponsor that event? And can I get the same outcome? Let's see what that experience is like. Let me just host one. Initially, I was going to quit before I host the first event, but I had a mentor at the time. Mentorship is extremely important. I had a mentor at the time who said, why would you leave without hosting one event when you don't know what's going to happen? What if you have any regrets? There's no turning back. Just host one while you're here, see how that goes, and then take it from there. So I immediately just turned around one event in a couple of months. I reached out to a couple of companies, didn't charge them much, charged them a little bit just to get proof of concept. And they agreed to pay, hosted the first event, went really well, and gave notice right after the first event. Once I got the proof of concept, while I was still an employee and still had that security, the first event went well, and I knew it could only get better from here. So at that point, that was the only thing I wanted to do. All the other aspects of my job, I didn't really care about. Wasn't really passionate about it. So I left and just went on that journey.
Wow. You talked about mentorship, which is extremely important, but you were fortunate enough to have a mentor. A lot of people just kind of go off of, this is what's driving me. I just need to go and do it. What is one thing you wish someone would have told you when you were starting? Lesley?
What's one thing? To be honest, be honest, there's a lot of things. I'm trying to narrow it down to one thing. But sometimes ignorance is bliss, right? All the stuff that I know now, if I knew these things back then, I don't know whether I truly would have pursued entrepreneurship. Like, sometimes it's good to just get in it and you learn stuff along the way. But if you know everything that you're going to be up against, like, who knows? But one thing, I'll give you something specific that I think everyone who's listening should definitely take into consideration and take it seriously, because I see a lot of people not taking it seriously. If you have an employer and you have a side hustle, you have a business on the side, a lot of people do, make sure you keep your side business or your side hustle 100% separate from your employer. And I was telling Ari my story. I can't go into too much details, but it is pretty serious. So what I will say is, if you don't have a personal laptop, buy a personal laptop. It's worth it. Don't do anything on your company laptop. Why? Because when you sign your employment agreement, when you get hired, basically there's writing in there that says if you use company time, if you do anything between 9 to 5, if you use any company resources, that company can own your intellectual property. They can own your IP. So don't spend years building something and you're leveraging company resources. And before you leave, your company steps in and starts making threats to own your IP. It's very serious. In my case, I almost ended up in court, right? And I can't get into the details, but I've told every entrepreneur that I know, I've told all my friends, don't play around with this. Some of them listened and kept it separate. Some of them didn't, and they got themselves in trouble. And so that's the one thing I wish someone could have told me before. Again, I told you I decided to incorporate the company while I still had an employer, decided to host an event while I still had an employer. There's definitely some entanglements, so to speak.
Entanglements.
Yeah, I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So
Right.
I kind of got myself in trouble a little bit. And companies will tell you, you know, they want to support you and they want you to be transparent about what you're going to do next. And some people internally have good intentions, but it's not about it. It doesn't come down to them. Once the legal team finds out, it's a completely different ballgame. Your manager might have good intentions. They might really want to help you. And so they'll tell you to do things that would kind of require you to use company resources. Keep them 100% separate. So that's the best advice, honestly, that I can give anyone who still has an employer and they're building something on the side. Keep that separate.
That's a great advice. Definitely. Another thing that you say that I feel it will be something that, you know, everybody listening definitely should take in consideration is when you say proof of concept. Monetize it before you make it. So try to monetize whatever you're making just before you spend years and years trying to make something. If this is a product, get a sample and try to, you know, a sample of whatever the product is going to be and try to sell that before you even spend $100,000 or $10,000 or $1,000 into making something to produce. Try to sell it before and see if people are interested. If this is a program, a product, something that is in your mind, you know, like Lesley, he was creating these events. Try to sell it before you even have something there to see if people really want to buy that. Because sometimes we're alone in our mind and we believe that we have this great idea, which it could be a great idea, but let's test it. Let's try it out. Let's make sure that it's going to be something that is going to make money. The other thing I would say, interview ideal customers. So get clear. I love that Lesley was so clear on his avatar, his ideal customer. And so he have a niche, you know, he has a group of people that he make feel special because he knows how to treat them. He knows the language, he knows that. So find clarity on who are the group of people you want to work with, and then interview those people. Ask them, you know, when it comes to, in my case, branding, how are you struggling? What is your biggest struggle? What would you love to have? What would be your dream? If you have a magic wand, what will you know what I mean? Like, ask those questions, get curious, so you can get all this information from your ideal customers and then create something that has a proof of concept.
Yeah, you know, a couple of things. There's a lot here a couple of things before we move on to the next question.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I wish I knew beforehand was, you know, getting paid. So when you pursue entrepreneurship and you're just getting started, companies can take it depends on who your customers are. In my case, my customers were like really large tech companies. They have these net 30, net 60, net 90 payment schedules, which basically means it takes 60 days from them to pay you, or 90 days or 30 days. Well, when you're just starting out, if you don't have a lot of capital, that could be the difference between you staying in business and you going out of business. So make sure you structure an agreement that requires that company to pay you within a specific time frame that will allow you to survive. Because going 60, 90 days without payment, imagine every company doing that. It's not easy. So figuring out exactly what tactics you're going to use to get paid on time. Sometimes it might be even letting them know you can't provide the services until you have the money. So I've definitely had, when I started 3 years ago, year one, I had some close calls where companies were asking me to do all these things and they're asking you front all the budget and this and that. And when multiple companies start making those requests, it adds up. So figure out how you can get paid as quickly as possible. It's one thing that I wanted to mention. Other thing, to proof of concept is extremely important. And to add to that, I think, sometimes they say take one step back to take two steps forward. So sometimes when people start businesses, they're so worried about charging a ton of money for their services when they don't even have proof of concept. Sometimes you got to just sacrifice, you got to take one, get the proof of concept. You might take a slight hit on revenue in the short term, but once you get that proof of concept, you can now turn around and charge a whole lot of money. Whereas if you're trying to charge a lot of money when you don't really have proof of concept, it could be an uphill battle, trying to charge a lot of money for something that you haven't really proven that you can do. So I've seen people make this mistake over and over and over again. I'll give you an example. In my case, I had a new customer year one, really large company, and they wanted me to host an event for them. At the time, I didn't even host what I call single sponsor events. All our events are multi-sponsored, multiple companies involved. It's more revenue. This company said we want our own event, and this is all we have. They gave me like a specific dollar amount. And I was like, you know what? One, we don't do single custom events. Two, I won't be able to make money. That's not a large enough amount, but it was a big company, and getting that company on board as a customer could help take the business to the next level. So I did the first event, didn't make any money, it was a slight loss actually, took a hit, but then turned that right after that event into a $150K contract for the rest of the year. So you could see how if you're looking at the bigger picture, that's what happens. But if you're so focused on making sure this company is paying you enough money, you could lose out on that opportunity. So also something to keep in mind. I kind of wanted to mention that. Always look at the bigger picture.
I love that. Did you want to add on that, Berjheny? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, in my case, I work a lot with like coaches and service providers, and they create programs, online courses, they try to use the expertise and package their expertise in order to monetize and leverage their time. What we do is something like Lesley says, something called beta. So we have like a beta group or like a pilot where you offer the program or the service or something at a discount price, and you are super open and say, listen, the cost of this program is going to be, or the event is going to be $100,000, but because you're the first one, we're going to be giving you all this attention, and you're going to get it for 25 or for 35. You know what I mean? In exchange, I will want you to give me a great review. You make sure they know, hey, I'm going to go all the way with you. In this, we're going to partner up here. And if you're satisfied, if you're super happy with my services, can you please, refer me, give me a review, blah, blah. And a lot of people love that because you're being upfront, you're telling them the truth, and they know they're going to get the best out of you because it's going to be a win-win situation. So try to find those win-win situations where you're completely candid and clear and say, this is the reality. This is what happened.
Yeah, no, all of that was just, I hope everybody was taking notes because this was great information. I know we're coming close to time, so I just wanted to ask, it's a combination question. I know we're in kind of uncertain, different, unique times right now. With Lesley, you have an event business. I've been to some of your events. They're amazing. It's such an amazing experience. How have you had to pivot during COVID?
Yeah, so.
And then also, sorry to cut you off since we're running kind of low on time. Also add in what you have coming up next and how we can follow you.
Absolutely. So actually this Thursday, we're having a virtual event from 4 p.m. West Coast time, 4 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. I'll send the link and maybe Aaron can send it out to everyone. You all are invited to attend. How has COVID impacted the business? It was an in-person events company. Shelter in place happened, and our revenue went to $0 overnight for a couple of months, actually. And so we had no choice but to pivot to virtual events. But the nature of our events is so dynamic. It's an experience. Zoom doesn't work. And so had to figure out what that was going to look like online, and Hopin, this platform we're on, was actually the answer. And so we host our events on Hopin. And again, proof of concept. We have to start from scratch. Just because you do in-person events does not mean anything for virtual events, especially if you're going to try to charge the same amount of money. So while everyone was taking 4, 5, 6 months to figure out what they're going to do, we turned around an event within a month just to get proof of concept, because we know if we're the first ones to get proof of concept, we're now at an advantage. We can do a lot more for the rest of the year. So we did that, and it was honestly one of the best events we've ever done, just in terms of the feedback. It was, in a lot of ways, it's actually more effective for attendees than in-person events because the experience is more curated. There's a one-on-one networking session. You can match tickets. So job seekers connect to recruiters, engineers connect to engineers, salespeople connect to sales. You can curate the experience a lot better. The data that you get from doing virtual events. So we had never considered it, but if, when you're open-minded and we just figured it out. And so now we're actually fortunately better off than we were with in-person events. It's a lot cheaper to host virtual events, less demanding, doesn't require a certain amount of resources. So the profit margins are actually better. So we're fortunate to come out on the other end of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
Congratulations.
Yes. For me, it was the same, exactly the same. The way my funnel works is I will do events, live events, and invite people to live events. We'll have introduction, networking, and that was the way I was selling my services. Or, creating, we have something called a society. We will meet every week. We do all these things. So when this happened, I truly changed in a week. Like I was like, okay, so took a break and be like, okay, so let's move everything online. So how to figure out, I actually did Zoom. I didn't even know how it existed. I was just like head on. What I did was I changed my language. So my language was in tune with what was happening. So I was helping people how to pivot in times of changes, how to monetize during COVID, so all my events were so targeted to what's happening that it was the best, because I will have 60 to 100 people on my events. Now I had 300, 400 people coming to my events. I was actually impressed that I was doing better without needing to leave my house, rent places, talk to anybody, spend money. I was like, I love this. I just want to dramas like down here. I just need to put a top on and I show up. So I'm doing better. Like Lesley say now, I'm happier because I'm actually a homebody. So I like to be at home. And I get to serve more people. Like now I get to talk to people from Europe and London. It used to be that my circle of influence was just Miami. And now I can serve more and better, like he says. So I'm going to be using Hopping now, thanks to Erin. This is new for me for my next events and try that out. So mine were pretty boring. It was just like Zoom webinar style. I would let everybody see their faces. I would be drinking and they will be drinking wine. And we have like a kind of fun networking event. I will do this little so they can go together and do mini networking. So not as fun as this one. So this is new for me.
I actually went to a comedy show on Hopin. And I was like, oh, this is a nice way to have an event.
Yeah, it is. So, trying it out for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Berjheny, do you have anything coming up that we could support or?
Yeah, I have an event, branding actually, about branding and business. I do a lot of free, very good informational webinars, at least once every 2 weeks. So if you guys subscribe to my list, like in the opt-in, in a freebie that I just sent, or if you follow me on Instagram, I will keep you guys updated about the next event. I know we have one in 2 weeks coming up that I definitely would like to see all your faces there.
Okay, and that is subscribing at the link that's in the expo, right?
Yes, exactly, in the opt-in, yeah.
Okay, so if you all go to the expo, there are different booths. You can follow the speakers, keep up with what they're doing, and check out some other cool things that we're promoting. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lesley and Berjheny, for your time. This was beautiful, a lot of information, and you guys have just such great energy and just great spirit. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's such an honor. And Lesley, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Likewise, pleasure to meet you as well. And Erin, thank you for having me.